We have a black culture in this country, and showing it off whether it's been in art or dance or language, it's really important for us to keep handing that down to our kids. It's helping our kids remember who they are and where they come from. Because we never had a pen and paper. We had what we had, and that was dance, storytelling from our elders, telling us where we come from, how things are connected, how things became to be what they are. And those stories helped educate us and our people. And we want people to know that our culture is something to be proud of in this country.
You're listening to our podcast, Shift, and that was Arnie Lorraine Brown. We want to acknowledge that we are telling stories to you today in our podcast from the homelands of the Dharawal, Alauri and Wadi Wadi peoples. And we pay our respects to all the elders in our community and acknowledge all they contribute to making sure black culture and identity is alive and deadly in Australia. My name is Sharif, and I am your host for this episode of Shift. Shift stands for shaping how I feel today. And your identity is a pretty important part of shaping how you feel today. And that's why it's our theme for this episode. So today, you're going to get a bunch of different stories that one way or another will get us thinking about identity. So who are we? What's our identity? Well, we're a group of young people that happen to be growing up in places that are considered disadvantaged. But that's not our real identity. Who wants to have their identity all wrapped up in something that sounds like a negative? So let's take the dis out of disadvantage and keep the advantage. What have we got to offer? Well, today we are offering you 6 stories. Story 1, all for one, about a time in your life when whether you could do a backflip is a major identity issue. Story 2, 2506, where we go all out hip hop. Well, hip hopera, actually. It's a tragic love story, the best kind, set in the postcode 2506. Story 3, Where We Walk, where we consider the places we grow up in and the things that can damage our identity and where our real home and identity might be found. Story 4, Jump Rock. You know those moments when you want to do something a bit scary but everyone's watching you, pressuring you? Well, that's what Jump Rock is about. Story 5, Multiple Choice, where we talk about gender and being brave. Story 6, Frame Runner. Have you heard about frame runners yet? Well, if you haven't, you're in for a treat. So let's get into it. Here's Jesse with this short bit of writing about mates and backflips. Story 1, all for one.
The crowd holds their breath, waiting for me to begin. It's no big deal now, but when I first tried the backflip, I thought I was going to break my neck. I really wanted to do it, but I didn't want to do it. But my mates were all doing it, and that made the part of me that wanted to do it want to do it even more. And then my mates, they're like, just flip. And then I just did it. Mates are like that. Sometimes you want to kill them when they can do stuff you can't do. And then it's even worse when they're like, go on, you can do it. But the feeling you get when you can all do stuff together, all the same, is the best. Like they say, all for one, and one for all.
So, mates and friends are all good when they put pressure on you to do good stuff. But what about when friends put pressure on you and it has consequences? Story 2, 2506.
James had asked Boo out. She was flattered.
She liked James.
She told him she would let him know. Stupid.
Why didn't she just say yes?
Because of Jake, of course.
And why?
When he went inside, they had written to each other almost every day. But it was hard. It dropped away.
How long was it since she actually talked to him?
Baby boy, it's you that I adore. But how long will you keep me waiting for?
Jake was, at that moment, walking out from the detention centre gate.
He felt amazing as he walked out the security door with his garbage bag of belongings.
Walking towards his mum's car.
So free.
They hugged.
He jumped in the car.
They drove back down the hill.
Towards 2506.
It fell silent.
His mood dipped.
There were so many things racing through his mind.
So many things he'd been wanting to do for so long.
And now he suddenly felt a bit lost.
Like he couldn't think of which one to do first. He'd been longing to be with his mum.
But now he was in the car, it's like he had nothing to say.
And he kinda couldn't wait to get away.
His hand fidgeted with the car lock button.
Lock. Unlock. Lock. Unlock.
Heading down the hill.
Back to 2506.
Hands up, 2506, be heard. 2506, we are. 2506, are you with us? 2506, hands up. 2506, be heard. 2506, we are. 2506, are you with us? 2506.
His mum called from out the kitchen.
She was having a cup with Arnie.
He come out of his room and opened the fridge door.
How you going there, Dale?
I'm good.
Would you like a sandwich?
No, I'm good actually. I'm just gonna go see my friends.
You just got home.
How about you listen to your mum? Stay home with her for a little
No,
bit.
I just gotta go for an hour, Mum.
Hands up, 2506, be heard. 2506, we are. 2506, are you with us? 2506, 2506.
Boo was feeling a bit under the weather.
She'd drunk a few too many cruises after she told James she would let him know.
She put her shoes on in a haze.
To head out for Lisa's.
Waking up in the afternoon, I call my friends who in my crew. I call up to see if what they doing is much better than what's brewing. I take my leave to myself over. Yeah, you guess it's the case of hangover. Oh, yeah, you guess it's the case of hangover.
Not 5 minutes after she walked out of her house,
Who should walk up to her front door?
Jake.
Boo's little brother, Lila, was there.
Hey, how's it going, man? It's good, man. Is Boo here, man?
Who's that? It's Jake.
Boo's mum gave Jake a withering look as she walked towards him.
Did you get out of jail?
Got out today.
What do you want?
Is Boo here?
She's not here, mate, and frankly, she doesn't want to see you again.
Not sure that's true, thought Lila.
Can you at least tell her that I come, please?
I'll tell her, but you're not welcome around here anymore.
Alright then.
Stay out of bloody jail, eh?
Yeah, I'll try.
Lila closed the door.
He didn't say anything.
His mum was not to be messed with.
Yeah, you guessed it's a case of hangover. Going to my best friend's house. We're just chilling, mellowed out.
Haven't you heard?
Heard what?
Chantal just told Shana that she's seeing Jake down the shops.
When? Where?
Like 20 minutes ago with Gordo and Guy.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Boo felt winded.
She just felt like she was getting ready to get over him. And just like that, he appears down the road.
Is he coming to see her?
Jake feels deflated. He ends up at his auntie's house.
Jai and Gordo are playing computer games on the TV in the lounge room.
They have been talking up a party that is supposed to be happening that night. Jake just sits there.
He doesn't say anything.
Well, you coming to that party?
No, not tonight, bro.
Why? You need to come to the party in that day.
You said you can't do it. I need at least 1 day's rest. There's no way you're not coming to this party. You're right then.
Stop egging him on. You better go and see your mum.
You're right, Arnie.
No, I should just come anyways.
Well, can I use your bike?
Yeah, bro. See you tonight.
Later, bro.
Jake rides his mate's bike like he has somewhere to go. But he doesn't really know if he has anywhere he wants to go.
Boo sits in her friend's lounge room.
She doesn't know if she can do this.
Jake hears Boo's voice in the wind as he rides. Last time he saw her, she said, "We can get through this."
I fight that today, only I can get through this. I'm pushing away, it's my life, I can do this.
Take a step back at my life and I realise I struggle from my fight. So think when I die, will I go up or down? Just living my life till I'm bound 6 feet underground. Then I figured it out, how to get out and shout. Freedom from these cold-hearted demons as I see right through them. Coming out stronger with a black emblem.
I fight that today, only I can get through this. I'm pushing away, it's my life, I can do this.
Maybe they can't get through this, he thinks.
Maybe he's not coming to see me, she thinks.
Maybe it's been too long.
Too much has changed.
For her and him.
Jake's thoughts are interrupted by Lila, who has been out looking for him.
Jake.
He pulls up the bike.
What's up, man?
How's it going there?
You found Boo yet?
Nah, and I don't think she wants to see me, Buzz.
Yeah, she does, man. She's at Lisa's house.
Is she?
Lisa answers the door. Not surprised.
Yeah, hold on.
She doesn't ask him in, just goes back in the door. And in a second, there's Boo.
She looks at him and looks down.
She walks out the door as if to walk away without saying anything.
He touches her shoulder and she turns.
You know I'm only missing you when you tell me, boo, it's okay. I'm only looking out for you, baby. When I wake up, it was you that I'd see. Now when I wake up, it is only me.
It's all about you. That's the truth. You're what I hope I'll never lose. But everything changed. I was switching my game. Still shit feels the same. Always in a confrontation when there's nobody to blame. That's the truth.
Come and save me.
I've always been missing you.
I just don't wanna be without my baby.
Jake reaches out and takes her hand.
She looks at him. Maybe they can get through this. That night, party.
Boo DJs and performs a song that she wrote herself.
Has anybody heard there's a party in town? It's got everybody talking, people breaking it down. And I know I'm gonna be there because everyone else is gonna party all night. And it goes something like this. Come on, ayo, ayo. People throw it up, you gotta raise your cup. Yeah, ayo, ayo. Break it down and dance and raise your hands. Yeah, ayo, ayo. You know you can do, ain't nothing to. Come on, say ayo, 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 ayo.
Jake is on top of the world, and the way she smiles at him in the crowd makes him know that she has eyes only for him.
Everybody knows what's gonna do and their thing. They wanna party all night, wanna party till the morning.
Things get blurry. Lila is there, and Jake is trying to make sure the older boys don't give him too much to drink. That seems to mostly mean that Jake keeps taking a swig from whatever Lila is offered.
The boys want to go cruise.
Boo leaves her friends to go and find Jake.
She suggests they take off before things get stupid.
Yelling.
Yeah, alright, yourself?
I'm good. I like the song that night.
Yeah, thanks. Could have been better.
Nah.
Yeah. So what he's doing, getting my brother drunk or what?
Nah. Trust me, I'm looking after Lou lad. I've been looking after him all the time.
What are you doing? Let's go. Let's go for a cruise.
Nah, I think I changed my mind.
Nah, bro, you're hitting it with us.
Just say you'll stay with me, she thinks.
Let's go.
Just say you'll stay with Boo, he thinks. But he doesn't.
The bottle shop is closed.
No problem. They swing the car around the back car park and near the delivery gate.
They get out of the car. The delivery gate is 10 foot high and padlocked.
But there's a narrow space between the top of the gate and the brickwork. Jake's small enough to get through that, says one of the boys. Nah, says Jake.
Nah, come on, we'll give you a leg up, they say. Can't be running out of grog on your first night out.
They push him up before he has time to think.
He scrabbles up the wire and it clangs a bit too loudly,
He gets to the top and squeezes himself through the gap.
dropping down the other side.
The sliding garage door is open.
He pushes it up
And it rattles like a train.
He's halfway between no thought drunk and paranoid.
He starts to rush.
He grabs the first box he can find in the darkness and races back up the gate.
It's not easy. He pushes it through the gap and it falls down the other side.
The dopey boys don't catch it,
And it smashes to the ground.
with a sound of broken glass and fizz.
Then the headlights hit.
It's the cops.
No.
The boys scatter, leaving the car where it is before the police even get out of their car.
But Jake has no chance.
He's just dropping to the ground when the police reach him.
Crash him against the gate. Handcuffs at the ready.
No.
They put him in the back of the car while the red and blue lights cycle around.
No.
Why? Why?
Boo wakes up and sees all the messages from Lisa.
From Lila.
And from half a dozen other friends.
Jake caught breaking into the bottle shop.
Broke his good behaviour bond.
What?
When will my baby return? What kind of lesson will he learn? Will it be 3 months, 5 months or more? How long will my baby be gone for? Baby boy, it's you that I But how long will you keep me waiting for? Only last night they took you again. I heard your absence, I heard it through a friend. Breaking into and a robbery. It was my heart that you robbed of me. All I seem to do is wait for you. But darling, I still got my life to get through. What will you do? What will you say? Will you keep on living life this way? 'Cause baby boy, it's you that I adore. But how long will you keep me waiting for?
Boo's mum didn't even know that they'd kind of got back together.
When she heard, she said, "Good riddance. I hope they keep him there."
Lala feels bad. He looked up to Jake, wanted to help him.
But things just don't seem to work out around here.
Boo was tempted to go back to bed and stay there, but she forces herself to get up and go down the shops. They need milk and bread. Can't just stop. There's things to do. Always things that need to be done. Can't keep waiting for something to change. It's not going to happen by itself.
Shout out to Ivan, Lucas, Tracy, Zane, Jai, Elias, Jess, Maria, Stephen, myself, Gordon, Archie, Letitia, and Belinda, who featured in that story. And a special shout out to Lucas, who wrote the raps that he does as the character Jake. To Archie, who wrote the title song, Yanni, who also contributed original music and mentored everyone, Morganix, who helped to mix the soundtrack, and a big shout out to Jess, who plays Boo, who wrote most of the songs that appear in 2506 and sings them too. We got Jess into the studio to have a yarn with a couple of us about identity, and this is what we came up with. Story 3, Where We Walk. Zane starts us off.
Being a teenager is a tricky time. You want to separate a bit from your parents or your family, to make your own decisions more, to start to express your own opinions, your own identity. But also you can really want to fit in with other teenagers and end up taking on their opinions, getting swayed by their decisions, taking on aspects of other identities. And sometimes that's cool, it's normal. But sometimes if they're into stuff that can cause other consequences, you can end up confused about what the right thing to do is, and what the right way to go is. A few of us sat down to talk about this. 3 of us. Elias, Jess and myself are Aboriginal, and Phil's not. But that's his bad luck.
Identity. What does that mean to you?
I grew up in Belambie and there's like a lot of Indigenous people there. Like a lot of Indigenous kids. Everyone knew, all the kids knew every kid in Belambie. And we'd all hang out sometimes, like the pools would sometimes be overrun with us. A little fight club up in the corner, something going down. You'd have some kids plotting to do something. Later on, you're all together running amok. When I was growing up there, like to get your name like known, you had to do something pretty messed up. Lots of stupid stuff.
And when you grow up in those areas and you're with those people, it's like second nature, becoming street smart and knowing about the ways of how everyone does things and about the codes and, you know, don't trust the police or stuff like that and don't go to school.
Because you want to fit in with a group of other people and you want to have the experiences that they're having and you want to experiment and like you want to rebel a bit because that's being a teenager. You want to make your own identity, but you could be in danger of losing it if you just follow.
I think growing up there was 2 parts of me that were always battling with each other. The one that wanted to be the good daughter and the responsible big sister. But then there was also having those friends who were doing crazy things at the time. When I was in high school, there were so many Indigenous students around me and a lot of them were my friends. And when I was coming into year 10, so many people had dropped out. I was the only Indigenous student left in my year. I had begged my mum, I don't want to go to school. I'm the only black fella there. Like, please don't make me go. She'd said, you're going to school. I had 0 friends. And I used to think maybe I could wag and go and hang out with my mates. But there was this massive fear in me that never wanted me to wag because I was too scared of my mother. So it just came as such a big thing, because if I didn't have that support, I would have been, another statistic.
Jess now works as a drug and alcohol worker with the Aboriginal Medical Service. And sometimes she even sees people she grew up with coming in as adults who need that service, who are addicted to drugs and alcohol, who didn't maybe have that mum who gave them the kick up the butt to stay at school, or didn't have the drive that Jess had to want to be someone who made a difference in her community.
So especially using drugs and alcohol, you're suppressing your identity by not, thinking about it, not feeling about it, not wanting to know about it as well. Especially that's why, we have a lot of people using drugs and alcohol in our, in our communities. Some of them have turned to drugs and alcohol at a young age and has never had support or never had help to get away from it. So your identity is now gone and you can't find it, and you feel lost, and it's been suppressed for so long.
They don't wake up one morning and think, I'm just going to start drinking. They start using because they want to block out, certain memories or certain, events in their life that have happened.
For a long time, we've had our identity as Indigenous people taken away from us. And it's only just been recent that we've been able to bring our identity back and very proud of it.
I second that. I'm third generation from stolen generation from having somebody in my family that had somebody else in their family removed. The effects of my family being removed still affects us. You could go generations down and it still affects that person. That whole passing down that trauma is being exposed to family violence, domestic violence, substance misuse. People use a lot of things to self-medicate. There's no real identity because they're still trying to find themselves. When you talk about transgenerational trauma, a lot of people tend to not think that that's a real thing.
The thing that you're saying about people don't understand it, I think they're willing themselves not to understand it. Aboriginal families were involved in this as well, but the Anglo and other parts of Australian culture who were involved in the wars, so the First World War and the Second World War, people, I think, would accept that those people, those men who came back, were traumatised, and sometimes that got passed on, like the traits, the things that then their children experienced, that they replicated some of those things, sometimes the same things that you're talking about, alcohol abuse and what have you, but also the same pride, because you go, some of those kids, they're third generation or fourth generation away from the diggers who were at Gallipoli. Those people will go to a war memorial or the Anzac Day March and they'll well up with tears. Because they're connected back to those people. So people know that intergenerational trauma is a thing. They're just willing themselves to go, that all happened in the past, and so it's why they're whinging about it now.
That's what generates the stigma, and that's what generates the stereotype, because they don't want to listen or they don't want to know because they've been so close-minded in what they know. When I'd gone to the Northern Territory and I'd gone back to my grandmother's country, even though I wasn't from there was a sense of being home and being able to reconnect with my grandmother and my great-grandmother. I didn't grow up there, but I knew that this is where my family have lived, this is where they had grown up, where they walked. And you just have this complete wave of calm coming about you because you just think, I'm home.
I don't know what my mob is and all that, so I wouldn't be able to go and all that. And because when I was growing up, moving around place to place, there's not that one set space we've been in for a long period of time. So it's confusing in a way. Yeah. And where's home and where do I feel the safest?
Yeah. You might not have a physical, material home there, but you're home because you're around, your family. And it's the same thing being a coastie girl. Even though my mob are red dirt, I've grown up on the coast. So I still feel comfortable being by salt water. So as soon as we drive over Mount Erzelly and you see, the landmarks down, you see Wollongong, there's a sense of calm, I'm home.
When I lived in Willamby, because the beach was right there, I found it really pleasing to just walk down barefoot to the sand, dig your feet in the sand a little bit, and you just sit there and watch the waves and listen to the ocean go past, and it was just really connecting you to where you were and all that.
Speaking of putting your feet in the sand, Port Kembla Beach is a beautiful place near where we live. There's a rocky platform down there where people jump off into the waves. It's a beautiful spot, so don't tell anyone, they might all want to come. This is the setting for our next story. Story 4, Jump Rock.
The kids would all walk down to the beach in summer, or scab a lift off someone's parents, if one of them had a car that was working at the time.
Lots of cars in the neighbourhood just sat in the driveways, or on the verge, waiting for a new battery or some mechanical attention.
The grass would grow up underneath them, safe from the lawnmowers.
Lush and green, and creating habitats for all the crazy rabbits.
Someone had rabbits for pets a while ago and they got out and, well...
bred like rabbits.
Now they were everywhere.
The rock pools were crazy fun.
Logan loved it there.
There was this little rocky platform right next to the beach, and up on that platform there were some really deep rock pools.
You can dive down into them.
Like it was the deep end of a swimming pool.
You could explore them looking for crabs and crazy sea creatures that pushed out bubbles in water when you touched them.
Today was perfect.
The sun was bright and hot.
The water was cool and refreshing.
There was hardly a cloud. The water was a deep blue, and near the rock in the shallows it was an amazing tropical green colour.
Summer, it was the best. Older kids would jump off the rock platform into the waves.
And today was no different. Well, actually, today was slightly different.
Some of the kids who Logan had come to the beach with were thinking about jumping, and some of them, like Nikki and Cooper, were younger than him.
Normally they would just watch the older kids or play in the rock pools, but today there was something in the air. The conditions were so perfect.
The waves were big but smooth and glassy.
And it looked so inviting to just plane through them.
Logan had thought about it a few times, jumping.
But heights were not his thing, you might say, so he kind of avoided it.
But Cooper and Nikki were walking over to the jump.
Better go with them, he thought.
They walked up towards the rocky outcrop where everyone jumped.
They watched as a couple of the older boys leapt off.
They didn't hurt themselves.
It looked okay.
Cooper walked up to the edge. He had a short hesitation, looked back at Logan and Nikki, and then jumped. Logan and Nikki leaned forward, searching for him in the whitewash, and then up he came, gasping a little bit for air as another wave came towards him.
Swim back towards the beach, Nikki called to him.
Woohoo! He yelled back, obviously pleased with himself.
That was awesome! He yelled up at them.
Nikki moved forward.
She got right up to the edge.
Looked down
and started laughing.
You know, that sort of laugh you get when you don't know what else to do. Come on, yelled Cooper from below.
She put her fingers over her nose, keeping her nostrils closed, and jumped.
The water swallowed her up and just as quickly spat her out, still laughing.
One of the older boys had come back onto the rock to jump again. He looked at Logan.
You going?
He asked. Nah, said Logan. You go first.
The guy shrugged and ran straight towards the edge, doing a crazy kind of bomb.
The water shot up like a blowhole from where he hit the water.
A few other kids went past and jumped, completely ignoring Logan.
Then Cooper and Nikki were back up on the rock, walking towards him.
They had found the place to scramble up the rock face that the older kids used.
They were loud and excited and so pleased with themselves. Why don't you jump? Said Cooper. It is so fun.
Logan didn't say anything.
Another of the older boys looked at him because he was standing close to the sort of lineup where people jump.
Your turn, mate,
he said.
Logan didn't say anything, but his heart started beating even faster.
Come on, mate. All the little kids are doing it.
What are you, chicken?
He started bucking like a chicken, and everyone around started laughing, including Nikki and Cooper.
Nikki even joined in.
Come on, Logan. It's easy, man.
The older boy said.
Just don't think about it.
Just walk up to the edge when a wave is coming and jump.
And then he jumped.
And then he jumped, making it look as easy as he made it sound.
Cooper and Nikki followed him in for their second go.
Logan watched them and then started to edge forward.
And it was like perspective changed.
He knew in his head that the drop was not that big.
But as he stepped closer to the edge...
But as he stepped closer to the edge, it seemed to look further and further down. And he seemed higher and higher up. Cooper and Nicky had resurfaced and were down in the water yelling up at him.
It was hard to hear them over his heart beating.
Come on, Logan. Come on, mate. Hurry up.
He moved his feet another step closer to the edge.
The water seemed to churn below like a washing machine and he felt dizzy.
A voice said, "Don't be such a wuss, you big baby."
And that was when he stopped.
He stepped back.
He stepped back. He could hear the voices below yelling at him. Disappointment and ridicule mixed together.
What the hell? Come on. Where are you going?
But he wasn't going to turn back towards them.
He headed back to the rock pool
and dived in.
The voices and noises of wind and waves vanished in an instant.
And he was in his own private world.
His feelings churned like the bubbles swirling to the surface around him.
He stayed down, holding his breath for as long as he could.
When he came up for air, Nicky was scampering over the rocks gingerly towards the rock pool and him.
Logan, she said.
He said nothing.
What are you doing?
He looked at her and still said nothing.
You know
you're going to have to jump because everyone is going to be paying out on you.
Oh well, said Logan.
What do you mean, oh well?
I don't know, I just don't want to.
It's fun when you do it,
insisted Nicky.
Fun for you.
Fun for you too.
Maybe.
Well, come on, let's go jump.
No.
Everyone's going to be calling you a chicken.
Well, I can't help that.
Yes, you can if you jump.
Logan knew Nicky's logic. He knew she was probably right about the kids teasing him, but he was stubborn now.
His heart had stopped pounding and that was replaced with something else.
It wasn't fear.
It was determination.
The other kids had started to disperse, heading off to the surf beach or the pool.
Some of them had to go home.
Nicky and Cooper gave up on trying to get him to jump, and he thought that meant that they had lost interest in him altogether, but that was not really true.
Nicky just felt she wanted to share the feeling of doing the jump with people, and she could see that talking about it with Logan just made him feel bad. Sort of made it feel real awkward.
So she started to do other stuff.
She kept looking back over to where he was in the rock pools by himself, and she felt a bit bad.
But it was his own fault. He wouldn't jump.
Logan realised he was alone.
No one else was on the rock.
He stood up and surveyed the whole scene.
The beach looked amazing, stretching out like a white boomerang.
There were still heaps of people there swimming and sunbaking.
But he couldn't see anybody they knew.
He glanced over towards the jump.
No one was there.
Okay then,
he thought.
He walked from the rock pool to the jump spot.
His heart started beating again, fast.
But there was only one obstacle now.
Just the drop.
Not the voices, not the chicken noises.
Not the eyes on him. He went and stood right at the edge.
Nicky came to look for Logan.
Cooper's mum had arrived and was offering them a lift to save the blisters on their feet from the long walk home.
Nicky came around the corner of the pool building and looked over at the rock pools. And there he was.
And there he was, standing on the jump rock ledge. And before she could even holler,
he jumped.
Brilliant, she thought. She ran down towards the rocks and watched as he swam around the edge of the big rock, down through the small beach breakers and onto the shore. He saw her, but he didn't wave. He didn't have any of that
I told you I wasn't a wuss
face on at all.
But then again, he was different.
Different to the other kids.
She always thought that. But even more, right at this moment as he strode up the sand towards her.
That was awesome, she said. I can't wait to tell the boys.
Can you do me a favour? He said.
Yeah, sure.
Don't tell them.
What? She said? Are you kidding?
Don't tell them. Why?
Because I didn't do it for them, he said.
And he just kept walking, while she stopped for a second, taking him in.
Because I didn't do it for them, he said.
What a strange character he is, she thought. But the best, she thought. Yeah.
Shout out to Elwyn, Lucy, Lily, Tyrese, Cooper and Victoria who featured in this story. Identity is the qualities, beliefs, personality, looks and expressions that make a person. Here are 4 tips to build a strong sense of your own identity. Number 1. Figure out and stick to your values and personal beliefs. Number 2. Make your own choices. Your decisions should mostly help your health and well-being. Number 3, spend time alone. Number 4, think about how to achieve your ideals and act on it. Story 5, multiple choice. Here's Melody to start this one off.
I guess it's just easier to think about things as being one or the other. Light, dark, good, bad, male and female. But we all know that really things are a lot more complicated than that. There are many stages of light and dark, and many complexities when it comes to considering good and bad. And even just talking about light. Well, light might not be the opposite end to something dark. It might be light compared to something equally light but different. It's convenient to sometimes explain things this way, one or the other. But if we relied on only two alternatives, we might run into trouble. I think we all know that male and female are not really two opposite ends of anything. There's way too much variation in how people feel and act for that to be useful. And way too much variation in the hormones that our bodies produce that influence some of the characteristics we think of as being gendered. And if you try and stick too rigidly to some kind of binary thinking when it comes to gender, you might make people feel, excluded, hurt, not seen, not recognized for their uniqueness. People who want to question or explore their gender identity are really brave. It takes courage not to give into conformity for conformity's sake, to go against what others are telling you to be. A few of us sat down together to talk about this, and we invited Beck, a local artist, to be a part of our discussion. There's also Dan and Shanice, two of our crew mentors, and Elara, my cousin, who's in Year 7. We started talking about pronouns, for all the complexities of how people might feel different from each other. English only offers up a binary of options when you are not using someone's name, which is a pronoun. Like, he went and tried on a dress. She went to play footy. So are there alternatives?
Why would someone use the pronoun they?
I don't know. But Melody's friends use it.
When I was first experimenting, they, them was a good placeholder until I figured it out. I was a very non-gender conforming child. I'd always steal my brother's clothes that he got for Christmas. If he got like a Pokemon t-shirt and I got makeup, I'd be like, nah, stuff this makeup. I'm gonna take my brother's Charizard shirt. I initially started off going days dressing male, some days dressing female, and I eventually realised that dressing female was not comfortable.
Melody, your friends changed their names.
So I think with, names that you're given by your parents and everyone, it's not always something as you grow up and you're finding yourself you really resonate with anymore. Sometimes you feel like, oh, this doesn't really feel like me. And yeah, so when you change a name or you experiment with changing names, you kind of go through that thing where it's like, okay, which suits me best? Which do I think is me? I haven't really talked to Elara much about what I think about gender and identity, but she's obviously been thinking about it. Many transgender people choose new names to go by and refer to the name they were given at birth as their dead name. They might choose a new name because their dead name's too masculine, too feminine, too binary, or it just doesn't really fit them anymore.
I work as a cleaner in a supermarket, and most of my co-workers are female because I work as a cleaner. I'm in the deli, I'm in the bakery, I'm in fresh produce, and that's mostly women in there. It is a little odd to be the only bloke in there. I don't think they know. They don't know. I haven't told anyone at work yet. I've been working there for 5 years. So everyone still calls me she, her, and dead names me over the PA, but it's like you're just a spirit possessing this body for about 8 hours a day, and then you go home and then you're allowed to be you.
So I said before that people who want to ask questions about their gender and identity are brave. One of the reasons why they have to be is because people can be very judgmental. It probably comes from not understanding. And what you don't understand, you might want to turn into something binary. I know this. It's good. I don't know much about that. It's bad. Finding people who understand is sometimes hard. So what advice did Beck have for any of us who are younger and thinking about gender and identity?
So it's all right to calm down, give it a break sometimes. It's important to not rush into it. These things can take a lot of time as well. So it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. and you're always going to be running. You probably won't find an end to it, as terrible as that sounds, but that's true for everyone.
Like, you're not the same person that you start out as.
I don't think anyone's the same.
Yeah. Despite how hard society tries to box you into that binary system, there are other options out there, and you should never feel afraid to, question your identity.
We all know that everybody has the rights to change.
Shout out to Alara and Melody who feature in that story, and a special thanks to Beck and Jean. There's a theory about why humans evolved from primates, and it's all about the fact that standing more upright gave humans the ability to run, and run long, and run hard. So running might be hardwired into us. Most little kids just run as soon as they can. Some of them even run kind of before they can walk. So what about if you couldn't really run? Story 6, Frame Runner.
This is Ashton coming up here.
Hello.
My name's Phil. How are ya?
Good.
Are you just about to go and do frame running?
Yes.
Awesome. Can I watch? And can I ask you some questions about it?
Yes.
Fantastic. Let's do it.
I was having a conversation. I've got 3 daughters, but my eldest daughter, she was like, so what activities can I participate in? And I said, well, anything, there's netball, there's anything you want to do, running, basketball, baseball, cricket, whatever you want to do, surf club, you go for it. And my second daughter, Pippa, who's 6 and has cerebral palsy, asked the same question. And I said, well, you could play bocce or possibly basketball maybe. Do you want to play basketball? And trying to be encouraging. But, there wasn't many options for kids to be active and, being an active family and at the beach and participating in lots of different sports, it was tricky for her to think, well, what can I actually do? We all know how it feels to be active and, those endorphins that we get and how much we take that for granted. I think it's important not only for kids to be physically active and lead a healthy life and lifestyle, but I also think it's important that children are together with other children, whether they have special abilities or not. I just think it's important for kids to be together. So there wasn't many opportunities for us to really do that in an active way.
I like all my kids at frame running, and frame running is so good.
What is frame running? Because is frame running?
Yes. Yeah, it was getting called race running, and they've just changed the name to frame running because it's being on the way to being accepted at Paralympic level.
If I was out in the street and I heard it, just heard it, I would have thought something about scaffolding or something, because frames.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Oh,
so it's a lightweight frame, 3 wheels, where children who have mobility issues or balance impairments, they're supported completely. So a front wheel, 2 side wheels, and a chair that supports them. So if their legs do give way or they need to rest, that they can sit on a little seat, but their legs or their feet are on the ground so they can still run.
And there's a chest pad in front, so they lean slightly forward, which actually literally frees your legs up to run.
Yeah, and a brake.
That never gets used.
So the legs are on the ground,
Legs are
the wheels are like a scaffolding.
The scaffolding was
like one of those baby walkers?
Yes, but in a good way.
Yeah, no.
Yes. Similar idea, but for big kids.
Because my baby cousin has one, and it's like...
Yeah. So the advantage is that those baby walkers are they don't give you a natural running movement. This chest plate, because when you run, you've got to lean forward slightly. So the baby walkers actually you almost lean back. This you lean forward slightly. So it's really fascinating. It literally frees your legs up. I deal with children, that can't run safely, I would say, which actually doesn't stop them running. So I spend a lot of the time saying stop. So that's when you see it, when it's so important to run, that I will still run, even though in running 10 metres I'll fall 4 times. I'll just get up again and run. It's also interesting if you watch a little like 2 or 3 year old or 4-year-old running. I say they run with joy, if that's all right to say, because you're not looking at that. Are they doing the correct arm pump? They might do some unusual things in running, but it's how they're expressing themselves. So I never correct that when they're little. So I think, running, obviously, if you allow a child, they will just go for it. If you provide a barrier, that can cause frustration. If you can remove that barrier, that's when you see all over them, don't you? The grin's a grin, hands go up, arms waving, they're just ready to go. So, and I think the other little bit about being upright to run, don't forget, is that you change your visual perspective as well, don't you? So it means that I can eyeball you, like I can look at you and interact with you while I'm running, rather than in a wheelchair where you're lower, because you can go you can go ridiculously fast in a wheelchair if you want to, but you're always lower. If you're upright, you can see what's coming as well.
I do like flying running field.
I can see that. It looks good fun. What's the best thing about it?
I do. Remember you told me to do long steps?
Yes, I do tell you to do long steps. This is Tracy, our exercise physiologist.
Hello, Tracy. So why are long steps good?
So a lot of kids, particularly with cerebral palsy, have contractures, so they're in a flexed position. So extending the legs really helps with, helping their posture and helping their gait pattern. So we try and incorporate it into a bit of a game where we step through ladders or we go through obstacles. As you can see, they're laughing and having a good time at the same time.
Ah, look at that. They can really go fast, eh?
Jackson's good fun.
You're not allowed to tell the children, but there's so many physical benefits because, bike riding's great as well, but this is weight bearing. Or you want them to walk, or you want them to walk in a walker, or you want them to walk in crutches, or you want them just to be able to stand to do transfers. All of that is just weight bearing. So all of this strengthening is quietly physio, but no one's allowed to let them know that that's therapy. Some of them might actually progress to running by themselves. But I did a frame running trial with a little girl. She's a little girl that will stuff you, I'm going to run. Yeah, and she falls. And so you can always keep up with her. It's easy because she just falls over. And we did a frame running trial. She loved it. And her mum and I were like just jogging along. And then suddenly I went, she was so far. And I then made mum run after her. But it's the first time that mum had ever had to chase her daughter. And that's when I thought, this has got such potential, but she then cried because the lovely rep put the frame runner back in the car because they want it now.
How much do they cost?
Oh, $6,000.
Yeah, depending on the size.
Yes.
We had a come and try day. It was maybe 2 years ago where DJs brought the frame runners down and it was open to the community. I just saw a little flyer and I thought, you know what, let's just go and see what this is all about. Well, on that day I actually didn't really know what to expect, but I took my 3 daughters with my husband.
I think the first time we went along to a trial day, we saw our girls running together, which was unbelievable. Molly and Pips were running down a netball court next to each other. There's a pair of twins there that day, a pair of young blokes that did exactly the same thing, and the smiles on their faces to run together as a pair of siblings like that just blew us away.
The boy with cerebral palsy got in a frame and started running, and just his twin brother chased him, and it was the first time as brothers that they had chased each other, and he was just taking off.
And that was that eye level thing.
And it was the most beautiful thing to watch, wasn't it? And that, not
laughing.
even my family.
He laughed, didn't he? He was laughing.
He was laughing and he was just having the best time, and I just was really moved by that. And I hopped in the car to go home, and I think there was some silence between my husband and I, and we just thought, this has to happen, there has to be opportunities for kids.
Because in Wollongong, we want this to happen, community help us, it's happened. So that's future.
Now we have
How did the
9 frame runners.
We've got funding and people have donated. So when you see a child in a school and they're in a wheelchair, and this is quite brutal, they're the child in the wheelchair. You know, they're lovely, she's a really good friend, she's got funny jokes, but she is the child in the wheelchair, and they're going to physio, and they're going to OT, and they're going to speech, and they're going to all these different things. But Pip's now got a T-shirt that says Frame Running Wollongong. So when her sister's going off to netball, she goes, well, Pip's a frame runner. She goes off to, what do you do on a Monday? I go off to frame running because I am a frame runner.
Is that a microphone?
It is a microphone, yes.
I do like frame running.
How long have you been doing it for?
On Mondays, I go frame running Monday.
Mondays for ages you've been going frame running.
The identity of these kids is that they are frame runners. Yeah, not poor kids. They're frame runners. They're all different, doing it for different reasons.
Yep.
And if you could just give us a bit of a hand, which everyone has, we will help these kids to run.
I can't wait to see these kids in a 100-metre sprint against their mates at school, open up at Beaton Park on a 100-metre track, probably flog their mates in school because they've got a set of wheels under them, and then go on and qualify to multi-class events at district and regional and state level, where they'll pick up other kids around the state that are doing activities like this of an afternoon as well, and then go off into their separate multi-class event. That's something that I can't wait to see happen.
Yeah.
And see one of these kids here, who knows? Who knows how far they'll go now that it's a Paralympic sport.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really look forward to that aspect of it.
Yeah.
To see a school carnival where Pips and all of these kids here are going to join in a 100-metre race and not get left behind.
Shout out to Zane from our crew who appears in the story, and a special thanks to Ashton, Susie, Renee, Sean, Jarrett, Tracy, and all of the frame runners. If you enjoyed listening to our podcast, you can support us to keep making more stories by going to Beyond Empathy's website and donating. You can make a one-off donation or commit to supporting us regularly. Every bit helps a lot. It's an easy site to find, www.be.org.au. That's B for Beyond and E for Empathy. So be.org.au. And even if you can't support us with money, you can really help us by spreading the word. Tell your friends, colleagues and families to listen. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Like our posts and share them. You know what to do.
And if you want to have a conversation with the young people who've created Shift, we're also telling a bunch of our stories in what we are calling podformances. Podformances can be live, virtual, or both. You can even host one. You could ask us to come and present at your school, or for your team meeting, your conference, your event. Our young stars can appear live, or virtually, or both, tell a few stories, and have a yarn about health and whatever else comes up. Just get in contact via our website. There's a super quick form on the Podcast from the Edge page that can get us started. Okay, I'm going to whip through the credits now, and if you stay to the end of that on any of our podcasts, you're going to get to hear some comments and feedback from our listeners, maybe even yourself. So make sure you get in contact via our website or our social media pages. We'd love to hear your thoughts, your stories. The people who made today's podcast are Elwyn, Lucas, Ivan, Tracy, Zane, Phil, Daniel, Jai, Lucy, Lily, Shanice, Melody, Alara, Jessie, Emma, Tyrese, Cooper, Alice, Sharif, Morganix, Gordon, Gemma, Jess, Elias, Steve, Archie, Victoria, Belinda, Letitia and Blake. Thanks again to our fantastic partners, the Digital Media Department at TAFE New South Wales Wollongong, Southern Youth and Family Services and Audio Technica Australia. Beyond Empathy has received funding from the Podcast from the Edge from the Australia Council for the Arts, Create New South Wales, Zurich Australia through the Z Zurich Foundation, Coordinaire, South East and New South Wales Public Health Network through the Australian Government Public Health Network Program, the Australian Government Department of Social Services under the Families and Communities Program through Barnardo's Australia, and also the Tony Foundation. This week we got this message from one of our listeners. The podcasts are wonderful, really. It's entertaining and moving, some sad bits, some moments funny, honest and inspiring. The children and young people are outstanding. The messages are insightful, clear and engaging. Extraordinary work. Thanks, Narelle. Narelle is actually the CEO of Southern Youth and Family Services, and we are fortunate enough to be able to use their amazing new recording studio facilities to get some good quality recordings, so we are very grateful for that. And then Narelle took the time to listen to what the SIFS partnership is helping produce. So if, like Narelle, you would like to leave us a message about our podcast or make a comment, tell a story, you can send us a message via our social media pages or via the contact page on our website. We will answer you with your messages. We want to hear from you. You've been listening to Shift, one of Beyond Empathy's podcasts from the Edge. Next time on Shift, we're going to try something a bit different. There's a big story about a billy cart derby, and we're going to split it into chapters across the episode, and in between you'll get stories about Hidden Harvest, Taekwondo, online gaming, and a story about one of the players in the Collegians Football Club, which just might surprise and amaze you. Catch you then.